is the Revisionary Podcast with your host, Juan Carlos. The Revisionary Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Revisionary Podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Juan Carlos. Today is an exciting day. First and foremost, the contest is still going on. If you haven't already entered, make sure you go ahead and leave that review on Apple. Make sure you're following us on social media. Otherwise, you really are going to miss out. And why not? It's free money. Literally, something will take you 30 seconds and you could potentially walk away with a little bit of cash in your pocket. Oh, yeah. I guess I should let you in on something. Unfortunately, I got deported. Yeah. So now I live in the Seattle area as opposed to New York City. So there's that. I mean, I think there have been hints about it for a couple of weeks now, so I think you guys kind of known. But if you don't know, now you know. So it's official. It's out there. I'm just putting it out there. And this is my first winter, like, in the Pacific Northwest, and I must say that it is not feeling like winter. I walked around yesterday for a couple of hours in shorts and people were looking at me funny. You know what it felt like? You know those people back when growing up, the people who used to come into New York from the Midwest? It'd be like 22 degrees and they're outside in like flip-flops and shorts and you're like, dude, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, this isn't real winter. This is nothing. And I was like, and I always thought that those people were like the worst people on earth. And now I've become that person. I'm sitting there like, people are here bundled up and looking at me funny. And they're like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, it's 48 degrees, guys. This isn't real winter. Like, to me, you know what this kind of feels like? This feels like a crisp fall day in New York. Like, this is quite pleasant. I'm rather enjoying it. The best part is, so I've been out here for the holidays, obviously, and I was watching everyone post all these pictures of the storm that came in the New York City and the tri-state area, like a little bit before the holidays. And I'm just sitting here. I was like, nope, it's sunny here. By the way, that's the other thing. People lied to me. They told me that it was going to be raining and gloomy all the time. And it rains here. But it doesn't really rain. You know, it kind of drizzles. It's like, oh, we're going to suggest that it's rain. But it's not real rain. So that's whatever. It's real pleasant. I really love it out here so far. So if you guys are in the area, you know, drop me a note and say hi. Otherwise, you know, you should visit out here because it's beautiful. Today we actually have a very special guest. Her name is Fatima Oliver. She's an author. So, you know, we're breaking the trend of comedians again, which I know you guys all love. So she's an author. She's a writer. We'll see where this goes. This is actually the first time that I'm meeting her as well. And there's been a few times where I've met people for the first time when they come on the podcast. So I realized that I should do a better job of letting you guys know how I meet people and when I meet them. Because I think there's a difference between someone I've known for a while and someone I'm meeting for the first time. But yeah, she's an author and she like is one of those amazing women who grew up with 5 brothers. Like you grow up in that kind of household, and she herself is a mother of 4 boys. So, you know, she's definitely grown up with a lot of testosterone. And I was asking her, you know, what do you want me to say? How should I introduce you? She wanted me to let you guys know that you would think that being around that many guys, she'd be an expert in how to deal and avoid the pitfalls of dating. But she says that despite all that, being around so many guys, she's had to live through some tumultuous and relational growing pains. She has gone on this journey, but the nice thing is she was able to write a book. And I think the book touches upon her life, and hopefully she'll share some of that with us today. The book is called The Prescription of Dirt, which is now available out on Amazon. So if you guys want to go pick it up after listening to our talk, then go ahead. She seems like pretty easygoing. The other thing she wanted me to let you guys know is that she loves doing mud races, eating chocolate, watching Impractical Jokers. Also, she just ran her first half marathon during the pandemic. Jeez, that is brave, I must say, because, you know, I don't know if you know, but there's this thing going around that kind of attacks your lungs and your breathing, and you're out here purposely doing exercises that doesn't help you breathe. You know what? None of my business. So we're going to keep it pushing. You know what? Without further ado, let's go ahead and see if we can get Fatima on the line. Hello, Fatima. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for coming on the Revisionary Podcast.
No problem. I enjoy listening to you, so this will be cool.
Yeah, no, it's funny. When I saw that you were available, I got so excited. I was like, yes. I know she's about to tell the most amazing story ever, so I'm really excited that you're here.
Yeah, I got stuff. I've been through a little bit of something.
So why don't you tell listeners a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to?
Okay, well, I do have children. So I got 4 boys and they've been running me crazy with this COVID and all this stuff. But in the process of the pandemic and trying to figure out something to do, I wound up writing a book about my life, an inspirational memoir. It's called The Prescription is in the Dirt. And it really talks a lot about all that dirty stuff that you don't want your friends to know about, all that stuff that you think in your head, insecurities, abandonment issue, daddy issues, boyfriend issues, abuse, you name it. I've probably been through it. A lot of those details are shared in this book. And just the different things the different steps I had to take to get some type of healing and really get to a place of self-discovery and acceptance. I'm a little bit all over the place. I grew up with boys, so I'm a little rough around the edges, and the book depicts that. So, there's quite a few stories in there. It's pretty raw, and I'm straight to the point. And it's been really promising. It's on Amazon right now, actually, in ebook and version, and also in paperback. So it's been doing really great so far. So I hope to continue on that tread.
So, is this something like a new venture for you? Like, or did you always want to write a book? Is this something you've been working towards for years?
Actually, I wish I could say yes, but I've always loved to write. That's just been a natural thing. Like I can bullcrap my way through a paper like nobody's business.
Yeah.
When it's in school, but I've always had that love for writing. This is one of those things where it just came from inside me. It was an extension of healing for me. It was an extension of expressing freedom to be able to be my truest self. And so that's where this came from. I feel like it was a serendipity moment, if you want to say that.
Sure.
An accident. I tripped into it, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to sit down, have this time to write it and express myself in the truest form that I know how, and to be able to help other women or other people in general who've also gone through some things and haven't gotten to that place yet where they can talk about it. I'm talking about it for them.
You know what? And that's beautiful. And I think that's part of the reason why I started this, because just for a little background, I tell people often that the people ask me, why did you choose this particular format for a podcast? And the reason for it is because I think that as a society, we're all part of this one human experience. And I feel like sometimes we don't talk about the things that we do wrong and how we would change and learn from each other. And I feel like we should be connected as one human race. And I feel like it's exactly what you're referring to. You're sharing your experiences in hopes of somebody else who's going through those things at the same time, feeling less lonely. Am I correct? And
absolutely. And just knowing that there is somebody there who's walked through those steps too.
Yeah.
And just being able to speak for all of us when it comes to anxiety, depression, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and just horrible decision making because of those things. Just being able to talk about those traumas, but also not about just staying in it and feeling sorry for myself or feeling that pity and staying there, but how I was able to, in baby steps, how I was able to get to the other side and can honestly sit and find joy again. And just, and like I said, just be my truest self, who I feel like God meant for me to be.
Look, I think that is a beautiful sentiment. And, thank you for sharing that for us. Let me ask you a few other questions, if you don't mind, so that our users get to. Where did you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Eesh. So I was born and raised in Vegas, not on the Strip. I did not live in a hotel. Okay? Anybody who says that, never say that again. Okay, we don't live in a hotel. We live in suburbia like everybody else. But in my case, I actually live straight up in the hood. We made it do what it do. And so I grew up in Vegas, in the heart of the roughest type of neighborhoods that you could grow up in. Hearing the helicopters all low near your house. They looking for somebody. You're hoping it's not your cousin. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with a bunch of boys. So I was the only girl out of 5 boys, actually. I was not the little sweet princess that the brothers loved and adored. No, I grew up rough and tough, and I had to stand on my own too. There was no room for emotions. And I think a lot of that impacted me growing up and being in relationships, not knowing how to tap into those emotions, whether it was anger or just sadness. But yeah, straight up from Vegas. Go UNLV, Tarkanian for life.
Go Rebels. 702 in the house. 702 is in the house.
Yes.
Are you impressed? I know that.
Yes, I am impressed.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I have friends literally everywhere, so I've learned, how to pick and
Well,
place.
that's good for you. Yes, absolutely. 702 forever.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Weird story before we get started. I will tell you this. The reason why I know the mascot for UNLV is because Hulu ran this TV show for a while where they followed around mascots for different organizations, and the guy who was the mascot for the UNLV was on the show for the first season. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. So I learned so much.
Made it.
They had a high school mascot, a college mascot, and a few professional mascots. Like one guy in the NBA, one guy in minor league sports, and then the college guy for the first season was the guy from UNLV.
Well, I'm impressed with that. I'm going to have to keep that as something to tell somebody one day.
Also, let's not sell UNLV short. Let's not act like they weren't a powerhouse for college basketball in the 90s.
Absolutely, they were. That was my time, and that's what I hold on to. Despite their record now, I hold on to the Tarkanian legacy.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of really good NBA players on that team.
It was.
Larry Johnson was one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
My boyfriend. I mean, he didn't know it, but he was totally my
boyfriend. That's wonderful. So why don't we go ahead and jump into this? Fatima, go ahead and the stage is yours. Go ahead and tell us your story.
Oh boy. Okay. So, once I divorced my husband, my first husband, I was in a vulnerable state and hadn't been dating in a minute. I mean, I got married the day after my 21st birthday, and we were married 9 years. And so getting back out there on the dating scene, I wound up staying with my cousin. Me and my son wound up staying with my cousin on her couch. I left a tumultuous situation, and that's where we wound up at. 2 months after I separated or divorced my husband, I met this guy. He was in the industry. He actually toured with the circus, believe it or not.
How'd you guys meet?
Riding unicycles. I actually met him in a parking lot. He tracked me down in a parking lot when I was coming out of a shopping store. So,
he was just standing there waiting for you? Like you're the one.
Tracked me down in his car, no lie. And then I was like, well, I'm a good girl, so I have to call you after I get out of church.
Was it a lie?
Well, I tried for it to not be a lie. I mean, I really am a good girl somewhere deep inside.
But you weren't going to church. Is that what you're telling me?
I was going to church, but I just probably wasn't going every Sunday. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. Let's focus on what I'm saying.
Sorry. Go on.
Okay. So we met, and honestly, about 2 months after I met him, I was head over heels in love. I left my cousin's couch with my son, and we moved in with him and his 4 or 5 roommates. He had a room all to himself, and I stayed in that room with my son, and I just felt like I was on my way, that I had actually found my knight in shining armor. About maybe 3 months after that, we decided to get our own place and moved in together, supposedly splitting the bills. We were going to get married. I hadn't had a ring yet, but that's not the point. We was going to get married. And shortly after we moved in together, we grew our family, and I wound up having my second son. So I had 2 boys by then. And I quickly found out that my knight in shining armor, he was somebody else's knight in shining armor too. So definitely was some trust issues there. And so, but even though I would question, and I would find a second cell phone and see numbers in there or videos of other women, he tell me it wasn't true, that it was his friends, and I just wanted to believe him. So I just, continued with the relationship. One day we were in the living room, and we were getting ready to do like date night, or movie night. And he had to run out to the car to get something, and his phone was sitting there by. I don't know why I did it. I don't know. It's just that little person inside me said, get the phone. So I went and picked up the phone and started trying to go through it. And then I heard him coming back inside. So I'm like, dang, I got to hide it. So I decided to hide it in the bathroom, in the closet, in one of the little closet, a towel closet in the bathroom. And so it took maybe about 30 minutes for him to notice that the phone was gone. So he was just like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? I'm like, I don't know. And so He starts tearing up the house. I helped him because I'm loyal like that. So I helped him look for the phone. We lifting up couches and looking in crawl spaces and looking up under refrigerators and tables and everything. And after a while, he was like, I know you messed with my phone. Like my husband says, I OJ'd it to death, meaning I don't care what you say, I didn't do it. So I don't know what you're talking about. Honey, I love you. I'm trying to help you out. I'm helping you. You getting on my nerves, but I'm helping you. So we looked for, we stayed up pretty much all night trying to look for the phone that I had hidden. But, hey, I had to do what I had to do. So the next morning, I decided that I was going to, when I headed out, I was going to go and sit somewhere quiet. I wound up parking in a parking lot, vacant parking lot, and just started going through the phone and just looking at everything, every text message, every calls, how many calls, just everything, trying to find a pattern of who he called the most. And once I found a phone number that I felt like this got to be the chick, right? This got to be one of the chicks anyway. Am I going to call her? I said, well, shoot, let me get up the nerve. Maybe I can do the private caller and call her. So I went ahead and blocked the number and I picked up the phone and I called her. First time I called, she was like, hello. I didn't say nothing. And then I hung up. And then I was like, shoot, let me call again. I called it again. And she answered. She said hello a couple of times. And then she said, well, if he was yours, you wouldn't have to be calling me anyway if he was really yours.
Wow.
I didn't know what to say. Clearly I wasn't saying nothing anyway.
Yeah.
But that just hit like a dagger because clearly she had a sense that it was another woman on the phone. Mm-hmm. And so I hung up and I just sat there and I just had to take in the fact that, you know what, like that was real talk. You know, I hated that she said that to me.
Right.
And so to take out my frustration, I just went ahead and got a tire iron in the back of the car, and I beat the hell out of that phone. I broke the phone, beat the hell out of it, took all my frustrations out on that phone, left it in the parking lot, and I wound up going back home and continued on with the lie that I never knew what happened to the phone, and he wound up getting another phone.
Okay, so I have so many questions. We're gonna really break this on. Let's dive deep. Let's start at the beginning. So how did you get from meeting this guy in the parking lot to moving in with him? Like, what happened in between? So tell me about that.
I just felt for whatever reason, this was the one. This was the guy. Now, keeping in mind my mind space, I got married the day after my 21st birthday. Sure. I literally moved from my mom's home, pretty much from my mom's home to my boyfriend to being married. And I think the vulnerability of living on my own, the vulnerability of raising a child by myself, and then this man comes in and he tells me sweet nothings about how he's got broad shoulders and I can lean on him and he'll take care of me. It really enticed me. And it was a different type of conversation that I had with my husband up to that time. I felt very, I think I was in a very vulnerable space, and I was looking, like the song goes, looking for love in all the wrong places. And he came at the right opportune time. Maybe he knew what women look like when they don't have worth. Maybe that's what he saw in me. And so he saw me as a target, maybe not. But for myself, I definitely didn't have enough self-worth to know the difference between, hey, slow your roll. You need to get to know yourself better versus let me go jump in his bed because he filled my gas tank up for $20 and he say, that he liked the way I move and the way it jiggle and that he loves me.
How long were you guys together before you moved in?
2 months.
Literally 2 months. Okay. And
2 months.
Was he taking you on dates regularly? So
I think the other fascination was that he was in a show. So he worked on the Strip in a show with his troupe. He was actually a part of this group. I think you said you're from New York, the King Charles troupe. He was one of the members in the King Charles troupe. Back in the day, they were a unicycle troupe. Okay. And he was one of those guys. So literally when I went to his show, one of his shows, when he came out on that unicycle and that basketball uniform and Missy Elliott was playing in the background, I was in the audience and I said, I'm in love. I was like, take it. I'm over like 7-Eleven. I'm in love. And so that's real. And that really was my mindset.
No, I mean, look, that's real. I get that. That happens. Okay. So I'm trying to get a sense of like who he was as a person, you know. So and like in your relationship. So did you guys go on dates besides going to see him perform?
We went on dates. I mean, we hung out.
What was your first day like?
In that 2-month time span, we went to movies, we went to dinner. Honestly, when I think back on that time, I don't even know. Well, I would say he paid. He paid because at that time I felt like, oh my God, he's just such a gentleman. You know, I don't have to get out the car and put my gas in. He puts the gas in for me. He holds the door open. You know, he buys my McDonald's or whatever. I mean, I was really in a low place. And for me, not having that understanding of what a man really looks like, for me, that was it. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, you know, he can protect me. And I'm sure that I was looking for that security as well, especially leaving a relationship, regardless of how tumultuous it was in my marriage. I still had that feeling of safety with a man. And when he came along, that comfortable feeling came along with it, of feeling safe because a man is in my presence.
And what was that experience like of living with so many roommates and like, you know, having your child there? Like, walk me through that experience.
So sad when I think about it. It's like, what type of parent was I? Oh my God. But it was a bunch of, it was younger boys from his troop. That, you know, he was you can almost say it was a halfway home. That's what it seemed like, you know, and he was like the head guy. But it was much respect. It was definitely respect. He was the head honcho. So if he said, this is my girl, I love her, I want to be with her, and this is her son, then that's what it was. So they were very respectful. It became one big family. However, I was literally the only woman in the home. So after so much of that, it's like, but we had our own, you know, we had the main room. So there was the bathroom and everything was in the room. I stayed in the room a lot. I think for me, it was, I'm not living on a couch. I'm not sleeping on a couch. And I felt a sense of, I have a partnership. Granted, I don't know him as long as I should have. But at that time, I felt I have a partnership so I can rest. I have someone to help me with my son so I can rest. And I didn't trust that I could do that for myself and that I could be that security for myself.
And how long were you living at this in this apartment with all these people?
I would say maybe 3 months. I really want to say about 3 months, maybe 2 months in, we decided that we were going to get our own place because this was real love. I don't think you understand, Juan Carlos. Yeah. This was real.
Yeah, no, I believe you.
No, I mean, that's what we got, of course. But, you know, this is real. And so, you know, we had decided, we made a plan and executed it. And he's the one that actually found the place and brought me to it, just like out of the TV, out of the movies, when they say, this is yours, you know, and you're like, oh my God, whose place is this? And then they're like, baby, I got this for you. And so you're like, oh my God, I love you so much. Well, that was the situation.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and so, and then from there, I think that's when reality set in as far as like what responsibility looks like, what divvying up bills look like, what our relationship as a whole is looking like. And do I really know this guy like I thought I did? That's when those things started to come up. But by then I was in like thigh deep.
Thigh deep. That's not even knee deep. That's worse.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Worse. Okay. So now, okay, you're in this new apartment, right? You've moved in. Let me back up, and I hope this is okay to ask, but how was your son feeling throughout all this, or was he too young to remember?
I think he was young. He was about 4 or 5 years old. Okay. And so there was some youngness there. But he also gravitated to him. He was very good with kids. He had his own couple of his own children. And he was really good with my son. He taught my son how to tie his shoes. So, I mean, he was a really good guy when it came to my son. And so that really wasn't an issue, but I got to keep it real. It ain't like I was asking him anyway. I wasn't asking my son how he felt. You know, It was all about what Fatima wanted. And I felt that Cupid had hit me in the heart, and that was all I was thinking about. Okay.
So now you moved to this new apartment, right? You're there. How long did it take for I don't want to call it reality, but for for things to start developing, let's say that. How long did it take for that to hit?
It really occurred. It started to occur once I wound up pregnant, and we had talked about babies and baby names and all of that. You know, like the young folk do. But we was in our late 20s, 30s, and we was like, I'm gonna name him this. And so, we definitely went through that spell. But then when I actually became pregnant, his attitude completely changed. as far as what his dreams was. It's too soon to have a baby. And I was very adamant on I'm keeping the baby. And so that alone brought some tension, even though we decided to collectively to have the child. But at that time, that's when I started to see a different side of him. And I had even been warned by some of the people that was closest to him and were telling me, hey, I don't think that he's the best person for you. But and these were his people.
Right.
But at that time, it just was like, you are offending me and you're against our relationship. And I don't appreciate you telling me this. And I love him forever. And this is how it's going.
Right. So then let me ask you this. Now, there's something to be said for a woman's intuition, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, you knew something was off. What were the first indicators when you started to realize, hey, something's not quite right here?
Well, I think one of the things was when I had to do a business trip for work, and I was about 3 months pregnant. And when I came back and was at the airport, he didn't come pick me up, and so I had to get a cab to get back to the house. That was like so hurtful,
right?
And I didn't understand why he would do that to me. And so that was a clue. But even the fact of me just doing regular cleaning, because at the time I didn't know anything different. So me doing regular cleaning and then happening to run across literally a second cell phone. I had no idea that cheaters have second cell phones. Like, this was a new world for me.
Right.
And so I found the second cell phone, and then I'm looking through it and I see videos of somebody was he was videotaping a girl and her, in her cleavage and all of that stuff. And it was just like, that was the biggest shock. And so even in saying that, he denied it. And I left because I was so upset. But then I just sat in the parking lot and contemplated, do I want to go and live back on my cousin's couch, or do I want to give him the benefit of the doubt?
Right.
Do I want to try to make this work? And eventually I wound up going back.
Okay, so you had no suspicions until you came across this phone. That was the first.
Absolutely. That's when it started really clicking. Like, oh my God, what's going on? I thought you was for me. But when I did realize, that's when I could have made a separate decision. But I did make a decision. I made a conscious decision to go back into a situation that I knew was not turning out like I imagined.
Okay, so now you confronted him, right? He tells you whatever, you leave and you come back. Now you've made a conscious decision to give him a second chance.
Oh.
What, was your relationship more tumultuous after you gave him the second chance, or were things pretty much how they were when you found the cell phone? Like, how did that affect your relationship?
So there wasn't any, I would say, with this person, he taught me how cruel life can be. So he never was physically abusive, but I really feel that he was emotionally abusive to me. So Things didn't change. He didn't get crazy. He didn't raise his fist or anything like that. When I say tumultuous, that's kind of how I view it. But he definitely didn't change his behavior. He continued to do whatever it was he was doing. And it was just a matter of me not having to look too hard, but me looking and finding information, or really just falling right into my lap, just doing regular things around the house and finding phone numbers or people literally calling the house. I mean, you name it, it was happening. Mm-hmm. And it was just a matter of him saying, the thing that men say or cheaters say all the time, you tripping, it's not me, it's you, something's wrong with you, you crazy, you're imagining things. And it was said so much that I started saying, well, maybe I am imagining, maybe I am being dramatic, instead of saying, no, I know what's true. I know it to be true. And this is not the type of relationship that I need. And, I need to retreat. I need to go back and be humble. I chose the other route to ignore for the sake of, I think, my ego, for the sake of my pride, having to admit that I was wrong and this was a bad decision. And just for the sake of keeping the dream alive, that something was going to change, or that I was going to be able to change him.
Okay. And now let me ask you this. Why do you think, yes, selfishness aside, let's remove that for a second, but why do you think he felt the need to step out of your relationship? What do you think he was looking for?
I'm not sure what he was looking for. And that's one of those things where, we get trapped in as people who have been cheated on.
Sure.
Sometimes we get trapped into, what can I be for them? What are they looking for? Maybe if I change myself, then they'll do this. But I have learned that no matter how much you try to be what somebody's like, what somebody likes, you will never be what they want if they don't want you. Period. Right. And so for me, I truly felt by the end of our relationship that I was just straight up being pimped. And it was more so I was consistent. I had consistent income. I mean, that's just what I was. And so he didn't want to let me go. And I do believe that he cared for me and there was some love there. But ultimately, I was not the person that he wanted. Whether it was a more street chick and I wasn't street enough, or I wasn't, I don't know, well, we said PG-13, so you can let your imagination go. There could be a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it's a matter, it really wasn't necessarily about him. It was about my self-worth and what I saw in myself. And the fact that I was trying to, and to some degree, manipulate his feelings for me so that I could feel cared for. And why would we want to put ourselves in a position to manipulate somebody's feelings to love us? But that's what I was trying to do.
And you were correct me if I'm wrong, you were the main breadwinner, right? You were the one essentially upholding the household.
I mean, I was the one that was more consistent because he did work in the industry. He did have jobs or gigs, as we like to say. He performed in different shows, but it wasn't consistent. There could be 2 months of working and then 3 months of not working. So I was consistency. I was making sure those bills got paid and the water didn't go off. So I think there's something to be said about that. And a lot of times people stay with people because they're consistent.
It's what I've recognized is that this was something that, it probably affected you deeply. Like you were probably very much hurt when you experienced this firsthand. But what I'm also realizing is that there's a sense of maturity behind your words in that, you've been able to process them and move on and handle it in an emotionally mature way and almost like, categorize your feelings. And you took the lessons that you needed from this and were able to move on. That's the sense that I'm getting from you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to make it plain. That was not an immediate process. Right. We were on and off for 4 years. We were on and off. I had a child with this man. Yeah. There's so much story that we just don't have time to explain. Sure. But it took a long time for me to get to the place where I realized that I may not know exactly what I want, but I know I don't want this. And so it took, like I said, we were together on and off 4 years.
Wait. So when you found out he was cheating, that was 4 years after you had met?
No, I'm saying when I first found out he was cheating, I still stayed probably 3 more years. That's what I was going to ask you. So when you broke his phone in the tire, you like just packed up and just went home right back to him? Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yes. And I'm telling it like it is because I want people to understand that I'm so grateful where I'm at. I'm so grateful to have a loving husband and have kids and all this lineage and whatever. But that doesn't mean that I haven't went through my own stuff. And I had to learn, though, from it, or I would have kept on making those decisions. Right. I upgraded. I'm like the Beyonce song. I straight up upgraded. You hear me? I talk about my family. But it took so much pain, so many tears and so much sorrow to get to a place where I was confident enough to say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to play this game anymore. I don't want to be that bottom chick. I don't want to be the bottom chick anymore where everybody else is building on top of me, and holding you down when I know that you're no good for me. And that really, it doesn't appear that I'm any good for you, or you wouldn't have to go out and find somebody else.
So let me ask you this then. Once you had that conversation with this woman and you went home, would you just, went cooking and cleaning or whatever it is that you were doing as if nothing happened, or did you confront him again?
Well, absolutely. That's what I did, Juan Carlos. I went home. I picked up the kid from school. He needed a ride.
Yeah.
I went back home. I cooked. I cleaned. I kept my mouth shut. I processed the fact that there was somebody else. Absolutely. And I kept that secret deep inside my heart, and it broke my heart, but I stayed.
Okay.
And for me, it's not just about his decision making. To me, it's so much more about my decision making and the fact of low self-worth that I had for myself to be able to hear another woman on the phone basically tell me she's clearly she knows the number. She saw the number come over, or even though I tried to block it, I can't say if I did it right or wrong. But I'm just saying, clearly she knew there was a reason why her number was in his phone. And so I knew that I had that information, and I made a conscious decision to harbor that information, not confront him, and just continue on with the relationship for whatever fears, whether it was fear of being by myself, fear of not getting another man, Just, there could be an array of things, but I know for me, those are two of those things. And just the fact of having to start over by myself and not knowing the first thing about being by myself.
Wow. I think that's incredibly powerful. Let me go ahead and just kick it right back to you. If you go ahead and retell us your story.
Yeah. So I met this guy, and we totally hit it off right away, and I eventually wound up leaving my cousin's home where I was staying because I had left my husband. About 2 months into the relationship, we decided that it was best that I move in with him. So I moved in with him and his 4 roommates. And it felt like a love at first sight when I met him. And I felt like Cupid had hit me right in the heart. And we had decided together that we were going to pursue finding our own place. Eventually we did. About 3 months after I moved in with him and his friends. We found our own place, kind of split the bills. And then we wound up growing our family. And that's when I had my second child. And then in the process of growing our family and learning each other, I realized that my knight in shining armor, he really was not just my knight in shining armor. He was a lot of other folks' knight in shining armor. Yeah. But I took it like a champ. And then but I didn't really trust him. And so one day, he went to the car to get something out of the car during our date night and our movie night. And when he went to the car, I decided, I don't really know why I did it, but something on the inside said, grab the phone. So I went and got his phone, and I went ahead and hid it because I knew that I would want to look into it later. So I went ahead and hid the phone, and I put it in the bathroom underneath some towels. And then when he came back into the house, it took him about 30 minutes to an hour before he realized that his phone was missing. And then being the loyal girlfriend that I am, or that I was, I helped him look for it. And we picked up the couches and we looked in crawl spaces and underneath the table to try to find the phone. And after a while, he started accusing me. And of course, I was like, how dare you accuse me? I would never touch your phone. That's not the type of girlfriend I am. How dare you? And so when he went to bed, I had decided that when I got up in the morning, I would go to a place and just go through his phone. So in the morning, I went ahead with my idea, and I sat in a parking lot, a vacant parking lot, and I just started combing through the phone. And then when I thought I found a number where I was thinking, well, he calls this phone number a lot. So I decided to call it. At first, I was like, I don't know. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? Then I just said, whatever, I'm just going to call it. So I said, screw it. I'm not even going to care if she knows that it's from his phone or not. I went ahead. I didn't try to block it or anything, block his number or anything. I just went ahead and called it. And when the girl answered the phone, it was a girl. And she said, hello, who is this? And I went ahead and told her that this is Fatima and I am with this person. Won't say his name.
Yeah, please don't.
You're in his phone. And I want to know what you guys' relationship is. And then she went on to tell me that they had an extensive relationship, that they had been together for about a year. And then I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. And girl, if you want me to, you can call me when you get to the house and confront him, and I will confront him with you. And I was like, great, sister code. So when I went ahead and cried in the car a little bit, I got myself together. I drove back to the house and caught him just before he left for his show. And I confronted him about the girl, and he said it wasn't true and that I was tripping and that it was me and that I was going crazy. And I said, no, not this time. You played that on me before, but not today. And I called the girl on the phone, put her on speakerphone, and she confronted him with me. I packed up my stuff, me and my son, and we went back to my cousin's house. And I stayed there until I was able to get onto my own feet.
Beautiful. Well done. First off, I love that there's a sister unity in your second story. Like, I appreciated that. I forgot to ask you the first time. How did you keep a straight face when he was looking for his phone and you knew exactly where? Also, how did you steer him away from not looking exactly where you put it?
Well, who's going into the bathroom, number one, to look under towels, right? And his phone was on vibrate. Now, I will say I did hear it vibrate. I have very good ears. Like, it's a blessing and a cursing. I really do. I heard it vibrating. So I went back into the bathroom to shut it off. True story. Oh my God, my heart was racing. So crazy. But yeah. So number one, nobody's looking there. And then when he was saying, I know you did it. I mean, really, it really was just me and him in the room. But I just got a good poker face. I mean, you learn that. Growing up in the hood, I was the only girl. Sometimes I had to go to the neighborhood store by myself, dudes on the corner, all of that. You got to know how to have a straight face. You got to let them know you're not playing. Even if you're scared, you got to pretend like you're not, okay? And so I just grew up with a really good poker face, and I poker faced the mess out of that.
Wow. Okay. And in your revision, I noticed that you spoke to her, but like that could have gone south. How would you have reacted if she had reacted violently, or like, if she had said that same wild stuff that she said to you in real life? Do you wish there was something you would have said to her?
I mean, I've definitely had that situation with the same person where I did call and they didn't seem to care. And they were like, oh, well, he's calling me, so y'all must not be together. I don't believe you. That's not your man. And I really went into this at that time in my life. I went into this pleading mode, this victimization mode of, but I have his child, and don't you care about our family, and you're breaking up a family. I went into that whole mode. And I probably would have responded the same way. But at the end of the day, regardless of what the chick would have said, and regardless of what he would have said, it really still boils down to me and my choices, and understanding that I can't control somebody else. There is nothing in me that can control somebody else's decisions. I can only control my decisions. And I can't change the past. Right. Nobody can change the past, but you can decide on how you want to allow it to impact your future. And those are the key things that I wish I would have understood at that time in my life.
Beautifully said. And I think that is a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. Before we let you go, we have two traditions on this podcast. The first is we like to end every story, every conversation on a light note. So frequently I like to ask people, is there like a quick childhood story that you can share with us that put a smile on your face, or like, something that like just makes you feel warm inside from your childhood? I know that you've had a bit of a tougher childhood, but is there a moment that like kind of just first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, and okay, yeah, you'll be talking about this one later. So my cousins always like to tease me ever so often, just remember to help me remember my place in the family. Sure. About when I was a kid, about 2-3 years old, and we were all at somebody's house, all our cousins together, that I took their money out of the piggy bank and I put their coins in my underwear and tried to steer their money. And they were like, where's my money? And every time I get up to walk, you could hear me jiggle. And they were like, Fatima, you stole the money. And I was like, no, I didn't. They was like, jump up and down. And every time I would jump, the coins would jingle. And that was probably my first stealing experience, being a thief at like 3-4 years old. I took their money out of the piggy bank. I took all their change and I put it into my underwear, the little bloomers where they were tight around on your legs, and so they didn't let anything fall out, but I was just jiggling every time I moved around.
See, that's really adorable story. Thank you for sharing that. I really like that. The second tradition we have on this podcast is we like to end every episode by highlighting a charity or an organization. Usually we pick one that our guest is really passionate about. Do you have one that you really care about?
Yeah, so one of my children, Jeremiah, we call him Jeremiah the Incredible. He has sickle cell. And so we decided as a family to change that, to try to transition that pain into a platform for purpose. And so what we do is we like to do blood drives and really go partner alongside organizations that uphold and support sickle cell patients. So the one organization that is dear to my heart is the National Sickle Cell Disease Association. Sickle cell patients often need transfusions, and sometimes they're on the bottom of the totem pole. Because mostly sickle cell people are African American, although it's not a Black disease. That's just the reality of it. And so sometimes they don't get the proper treatment. But blood transfusions are critical a lot of times to their livelihood. And so being able to support that organization in any way with the blood drive, or just providing donations so that they can send that money downstream to the other local organizations would be very greatly appreciated because it will help someone like my son.
Perfect. Wow. And please send us the link, and I'll keep it in the description of this episode so that people can follow along. Now, assuming you want people to follow you after this show episode, if not, that's okay too. Where can they follow you?
Yes. Well, first, I must say, and I'm going to hog it, this is my book. So again, I did write my first book. It's self-published. It is on Amazon in ebook and paperback. And please, you guys, support me. If you liked any of the stuff that I was talking about today, you can definitely find more of those type of stories in my book. It's called The Prescription is in the Dirt. Any type of review that you leave, I definitely look at them, and they just warm my heart. But also, if you just want to chat or just see any type of the craziness that happens with my family, you can find me on Facebook as Fatima Oliver, Instagram, Fatima Oliver 1975. On Reddit, I'm on Reddit for Fatima Oliver. And I'm missing one, LinkedIn, if you're more professional and you don't do that Facebook and Instagram. Well, I'm on LinkedIn too. And so that's on Fatima Oliver also. I would love to hear from anyone. I would love to hear your stories and to walk with you through your healing process.
Wow. Very well said. Thank you so much for coming on the Revisionary podcast. You have been so wonderful. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Wow. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I was so nervous because, I really wanted to be cool and stuff, a little older. And I really appreciate you reaching out. I'm so grateful and honored for the opportunity to talk with you.
No, literally anytime. You're always welcome back. And don't ever be nervous around me. I like to make this a very laid back, inclusive environment,
Absolutely. And I'll remember that. I'll hold you to that.
Please do. All right. On that note, take care and say goodbye to our revisionaries.
All right. Bye, you guys. I certainly hope to hear from some of you, all of you very soon.
The Revisionary Podcast.
I want to say thank you to Fatima for coming onto the podcast. And again, this is another one of those stories that I often like to highlight. I think that there needs to be a certain amount of vulnerability to open up and have conversations about these issues. And I appreciate that she was willing to open up and have this conversation with me. I think she was very honest. And I think that she benefits from the ability to self-reflect. And I think that it's interesting how she's able to look within herself and break down the situation. And I think that is a skill that I hope to someday be able to attain and someday be able to master. So I'm appreciative of her and her ability to do so. And as always, I want to say thank you for listening.